Yuna stepped off the transport ship and felt the warm air hit her face. The planet Vrathis Prime was hotter than Earth, but not uncomfortable. She pulled her field bag over her shoulder and looked around the landing platform. Everything here was built large. The doorway stood twice her height. The railings came up to her chest instead of her waist. Even the steps were deeper than what she was used to. A voice crackled in her ear device. "Dr. Yuna, welcome to Vrathis Prime. Please proceed to the main building. Your guide is waiting." She walked across the platform, her boots making soft sounds on the metal surface. The main building loomed ahead, all smooth walls and curved architecture. It looked organic, like it had grown from the ground rather than been built. The Vrath preferred natural designs. She had studied this in her preparation materials. The door slid open as she approached. Inside, the ceiling stretched high above her. Soft blue lights gave everything a calm glow. A figure moved in the shadows at the far end of the room. Yuna had seen pictures of the Vrath, but nothing prepared her for seeing one in person. The creature that approached her stood on 4 powerful legs, each ending in curved claws that clicked softly on the floor. Its body was covered in dark fur with lighter stripes running along its flanks. The head sat on a muscular neck, with forward-facing eyes that glowed amber in the dim light. When it opened its mouth to speak, she could see rows of sharp teeth. "Dr. Yuna," the Vrath said, its voice deep and rumbling. "I am Devon, your liaison for this assignment. Welcome to our world." The translation device in her ear converted the sounds into words she could understand, though there was a slight delay that made conversation feel just a bit off. "Thank you, Devon," Yuna said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm honored to be here." Davon's eyes studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. She reminded herself that the Vrath were apex predators. Those eyes were designed to track prey. The fact that they had developed intelligence and civilization didn't change millions of years of evolution. "You are smaller than I expected," Devon said. "The images in our database did not capture the fragility of your species." Yuna had heard similar comments before. Humans looked weak compared to most spacefaring species. No natural armor, no claws, no venomous bite. Just soft skin and blunt nails. It was a miracle her species had survived on Earth, let alone reached the stars. "We manage," she said with a slight smile. Davon made a sound that might have been amusement. "Indeed you do. Come, I will take you to the nursery habitat. That is where you will conduct your research, yes?" "Yes, I'm here to study the development of young Vrath, how they learn, how they play, how they interact with their environment." "An interesting choice of study," Davon said, turning to lead her deeper into the building. "Our cubs are energetic. I hope you will not find them overwhelming." They walked through corridors that seemed designed for beings much larger than Yuna. She had to take 2 steps for every one of Davon's. The Vrath moved with a fluid grace that spoke of power held in check. Every movement was efficient, purposeful, a hunter's economy of motion. "Have humans and Vrath worked together before?" Yuna asked, partly out of curiosity and partly to fill the silence. "Rarely," Davon replied. "Your species is new to the galactic community. Most of us have only seen humans in images and videos. You are the first human to visit our homeworld." That explained the stares she had been receiving from other Vrath they passed in the corridors. Some stopped to watch her walk by, their eyes tracking her movement with unnerving focus. They reached a large door that slid open with a soft hiss. Beyond it lay a vast space filled with artificial trees, rocks, and what looked like play structures. The ceiling was transparent, showing the orange sky of Vrathis Prime. In the distance, Yuna could see mountains rising against the horizon. "This is the nursery habitat," Davon said. "The cubs spend most of their day here, learning to hunt, to climb, to interact with their siblings." Yuna stepped into the habitat and immediately heard sounds of activity. chirping, growling, the thud of bodies hitting the ground. She turned to see a group of young Vrath tumbling together in what looked like play fighting. They were smaller than the adults, about the size of large dogs, but already showed the muscular build and sharp features of their species. One of the cubs noticed her and froze, then another. Within seconds, all activity in the habitat had stopped. Every single cub was staring at her. "They have never seen a human before," Devon explained. "You are unusual to them." The cubs began to approach slowly, cautiously. Their movements were careful, testing. Yuna realized she was being evaluated as potential prey. The thought sent a chill down her spine, but she held still. Running would trigger their chase instinct. A female Vrath emerged from a side door, moving quickly to position herself between Yuna and the approaching cubs. "Davin, you should have warned me before bringing her in. The cubs are not prepared." "Hana is our lead cub caretaker," Davin said to Yuna. "She manages the nursery program." Hana was slightly smaller than Devon, with lighter-colored fur and bright green eyes. She made a series of clicking sounds at the cubs, and they immediately retreated a few steps, though their eyes never left Yuna. "I apologize," Hana said. "The cubs are curious, but they must learn proper behavior around other species. Especially ones as—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Delicate as humans." Yuna wanted to protest that humans weren't that delicate, but she understood their concern. To the Vrath, she probably looked like she could break easily. "I understand," Yuna said. "I'd like to set up my observation equipment if that's acceptable. I'll stay out of the cubs' way while they get used to my presence." Hana exchanged a look with Devon, then nodded. "Very well. I will watch closely. If any cub shows aggression, you must leave immediately." "Agreed," Yuna said. She moved to the edge of the habitat, where she could have a good view of the play area. Opening her field bag, she pulled out several small sensor devices. These would record video, audio, and track movement patterns. She had planned to place them strategically around the habitat for the best coverage. The cubs watched her every movement. She could feel their eyes following her hands as she activated the first sensor. When she stood up, they all tensed, ready to react to whatever she did next. Yuna looked at the ceiling, calculating where to place the sensors for optimal angles. She would need to mount them high enough to avoid being tampered with by curious cubs, but low enough that she could reach them for maintenance. She didn't notice the intensity with which the cubs watched her. She didn't see how they shifted their weight, preparing for something their instincts told them was about to happen. She only knew that she had work to do, and limited time to do it. The sensor felt light in Yuna's hand as she examined the mounting bracket. She had done this hundreds of times in various research locations across 3 different planets. The procedure was simple. Activate the sensor, extend the mounting arm, attach it to a stable surface at the optimal height, and move on to the next location. She walked to the first mounting point she had identified, a smooth section of wall near the corner of the habitat. The surface was made of some kind of synthetic material that felt warm to the touch. The cubs tracked her movement, their heads swiveling to follow her path. Some took a few steps closer, their curiosity overcoming their caution. "Stay back, little ones," Hana called out in the Vrath language, which Yuna's translator converted with a slight delay. The cubs obeyed, but their attention never wavered. Yuna reached up, stretching her arm to press the sensor's mounting pad against the wall. The spot she had chosen was about 8 feet off the ground. She had to rise up on her toes to reach it properly. The mounting pad adhered with a soft click. Behind her, she heard a collective intake of breath from the watching Vrath. She glanced back and saw Davin and Hana staring at her with what looked like surprise. The cubs had moved closer, their eyes wide. "Is something wrong?" Yuna asked, lowering her arm. "You can reach that high?" Hana asked, her voice carrying a note of disbelief. Yuna looked at the sensor, then back at Hana. It's only about 8 feet. That's normal mounting height for this type of equipment. But you are so small, Davin said, and yet you can reach so far above your head. Yuna realized that the Vrath, despite their size, had a different body structure. Their torsos were long and low to the ground, built for stability and power. Their legs, while strong, didn't extend their reach upward the way human legs did. A Vrath standing on all fours could not reach as high as a human standing on 2 legs. Humans are bipedal, Yuna explained. We're built to stand upright. It gives us height advantage even though we're smaller overall. She moved to the next mounting point, not thinking much of the exchange. She had 4 more sensors to place, and she wanted to finish before the cubs became too restless. The next spot was on a support column near the center of the habitat. This one was slightly higher, about 9 feet up. Yuna positioned herself under the mounting point and looked up, measuring the distance. She would need to jump a little to reach it comfortably. Nothing strenuous, just a small hop to get her hand high enough to press the mounting pad firmly against the surface. She bent her knees slightly, preparing for the jump. Every cub in the habitat suddenly went still, their bodies tensing. Yuna didn't notice. She was focused on the mounting point, calculating the minimal effort needed to reach it. She jumped. It wasn't a high jump by human standards. Her feet left the ground by maybe 6 inches, just enough to extend her reach those extra few crucial centimeters. Her hand pressed the sensor firmly against the column, and the mounting pad adhered with another satisfying click. She landed smoothly, her knees bending to absorb the impact. The habitat erupted in chaos. Every single cub launched themselves into the air, their powerful legs propelling them upward. They twisted and turned, claws extended, reaching for the sensor on the column. But none of them came close. The highest jumper managed to get perhaps 4 feet off the ground before gravity pulled it back down. Most barely achieved 3 feet. They landed in a tumbling mass of fur and limbs, chirping and growling in what sounded like confusion and frustration. Some tried again immediately, jumping and failing to reach anywhere near the height Yuna had achieved. Others sat on their haunches, staring up at the sensor as if trying to understand how the small, strange creature had placed it so far out of reach. Yuna stood frozen, her hand still raised from placing the sensor. She looked at the cubs, then at Hana and Davin, not understanding what had just happened. Hana was staring at her with an expression Yuna couldn't quite read. Her mouth hung slightly open, showing the tips of her teeth. Devin had taken several steps closer, his amber eyes fixed on Yuna with an intensity that made her nervous. "Did I do something wrong?" Yuna asked carefully. "You jumped," Davin said slowly. "You left the ground and reached higher than your normal standing height." "Yes," Yuna said, confused. "I had to reach the mounting point. Is that a problem?" Hana made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. "The cubs have never seen anything jump like that. They thought they could do it too." Yuna looked at the cubs, who were still attempting to reach the sensor. They jumped with everything they had, their muscles coiling and releasing with impressive power. But their bodies weren't designed for vertical leaping. They were built for pouncing forward, for quick sprints and powerful lunges at ground level. Jumping straight up was not something their physiology favored. "I'm sorry," Yuna said. "I didn't mean to confuse them." "Do not apologize," Devin said. "This is fascinating. How high can you jump?" Yuna thought about it. "I'm not an athlete, but I can probably jump about 2 feet straight up if I try hard. Maybe a bit more with a running start." The 2 adult Vrath exchanged looks that spoke of some unspoken communication. Hana moved closer to the cubs, making soothing sounds to calm them down. Most had given up on reaching the sensor and were now sitting in a group, staring at Yuna with renewed interest. 2 feet, Davin repeated. You can propel your entire body 2 feet into the air. It's not that impressive, Yuna said. Some humans can jump much higher. Athletes can clear 6 feet or more in high jump competitions, and there are humans who can leap from standing and grab objects 10 feet off the ground. Davin's eyes widened slightly. That is remarkable. The best jumper among the Vrath, with training and optimal conditions, might achieve 5 feet of vertical height, and that would be exceptional. Most of us can barely leave the ground. Yuna began to understand why her simple action had caused such a reaction. What was normal for humans was apparently extraordinary for the Vrath. She looked at the cubs, who were now approaching her again, but with a different energy. They weren't evaluating her as prey anymore. They were looking at her with something that might have been awe. One of the smaller cubs, braver than the others, walked right up to Yuna and sat down in front of her. It chirped softly, then crouched and jumped, managing to get perhaps 2 feet off the ground. It landed and looked at Yuna expectantly, as if asking her to show it how to jump higher. Yuna couldn't help but smile. She crouched down to the cub's level. "I don't think I can teach you to jump like a human," she said gently. "Your body is built different from mine, but that doesn't make you less amazing." The cub tilted its head, not understanding her words, but seeming to recognize the friendly tone. It chirped again and bounded away to rejoin its siblings. "The cubs are fascinated by you now," Hana observed. "They see you as something strange and wonderful. This will make your research very interesting." Yuna stood up and looked at her remaining sensors. She still had 3 more to place. "Should I continue?" she asked. "I don't want to overstimulate them." "Please," Devin said. "I want to see this again, and I believe Hana does too." Hana nodded, her green eyes bright with curiosity. "Yes, please continue. We will manage the cubs." Yuna moved to the 3rd mounting point, aware that every eye in the habitat was watching her. This one was even higher than the last, requiring her to jump a bit more to reach it. She took a breath, bent her knees, and launched herself upward. Her fingers pressed the mounting pad against the surface, and she heard the click of adhesion just as gravity began pulling her back down. This time, only about half the cubs tried to jump after her. The others had learned that they couldn't match her height. But those that did try put even more effort into it, their little bodies straining to achieve what they had just witnessed. As Yuna moved to place the 4th sensor, she realized something profound was happening. She wasn't just installing research equipment anymore. She was demonstrating something these creatures had never seen before. She was showing them that the universe contained possibilities beyond their own physical limitations. And judging by the way Davin and Hana were watching her, the adult Vrath were learning the same lesson. Word spread quickly through the Vrath facility. By the time Yuna finished placing her sensors, a small crowd had gathered outside the nursery habitat. She could see them through the transparent walls, pressing close to watch the strange human researcher work. Devin noticed her discomfort and made a gesture to the onlookers. Reluctantly, they dispersed, though many lingered nearby, stealing glances through the doorways. "I apologize," Devin said. "Your abilities are unexpected. The others are curious." Yuna finished calibrating the last sensor and turned to face him. "My abilities? I'm just mounting equipment. This is normal work." "Normal for you, perhaps," Hana said, approaching from where she had been organizing the cubs. "For us, what you do is extraordinary. We must understand this better." She made a series of clicks and whistles, and the cubs formed into an orderly group. They sat on their haunches, their eyes still fixed on Yuna, but their behavior more controlled now. Hana had clearly trained them well. "May I ask you questions?" Devin inquired. "About human physiology?" Yuna nodded, sitting down on one of the observation benches at the edge of the habitat. Her legs ached slightly from the jumping, reminding her that she hadn't kept up with her exercise routine during the long space journey. Of course. That's part of why I'm here, isn't it? Cross-species understanding. Devon settled onto the ground nearby, his massive form somehow making the posture look elegant. Hana remained standing, keeping one eye on the cubs. You are a biped, Devon began. You walk on two legs always, yes? Yes. Humans evolved to walk upright. It freed our hands for tool use and gave us better sight lines across tall grass. At least, that's what the anthropologists believe. And this upright posture allows you to reach high and to jump? The two legs give us a stable base, Yuna explained. When we jump, we're using some of the strongest muscles in our body, our thighs, our calves, our core. All of that power focuses on propelling us upward. Plus, our feet are designed to act like springs. The arch in our foot stores energy when we land and releases it when we jump again. Hana's ears twitched forward, a sign of intense interest. You are built for jumping? This is a primary feature of your species? Not primary exactly, Yuna said. We're built more for endurance. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Our bodies are designed to keep moving, to regulate heat efficiently, to maintain activity for long periods. Persistence hunting, Devon repeated, his voice thoughtful. You hunt by outlasting your prey. Our ancestors did, yes. We don't hunt much anymore, at least not for survival. But our bodies still carry those adaptations. A new voice spoke from the entrance to the habitat. This is remarkable information. Yuna turned to see another Vrath entering, this one older, with gray streaks in the dark fur. The newcomer moved with authority, and both Devon and Hana straightened slightly in acknowledgement. Dr. Yuna, this is Tai, Devon said. He is our lead researcher in xenobiology. He studies other species, just as you study us. Tai approached slowly, his eyes examining Yuna with professional interest. I have read everything available about humans. Your species appeared suddenly on the galactic stage, with technology that suggested rapid development, but the physical specifications in our database are clearly incomplete. What do you mean? Yuna asked. Tai gestured with one clawed hand. The database lists your height, weight, sensory capabilities. But it does not mention this jumping ability. It does not mention persistence hunting. These are significant evolutionary adaptations. I suppose whoever compiled the database didn't think they were important, Yuna said. Humans don't really think of jumping as special. It's just something we can do. But it is special, Tai insisted. The Vrath are considered exceptional hunters in this region of space. We are fast, strong, with sharp senses and powerful bodies. Yet we cannot do what you just did. We cannot leap straight upward with such ease. This suggests your species has capabilities we have not considered. Yuna felt uncomfortable with the attention. She had come here to study the Vrath, not to become a subject of study herself. But she could see the genuine curiosity in Tai's eyes, the same scientific interest she felt when observing a new species. What would you like to know? She asked. Tai settled down next to Devon. Everything. Start from the beginning. How did humans evolve? Yuna took a breath and organized her thoughts. She wasn't an expert on human evolution, but she knew the basics. Every human learned them in school. Humans evolved on Earth, which is a planet with moderate gravity and diverse terrain. Our ancestors were tree-dwelling primates who came down to the ground and started walking upright. This was maybe 6 or 7 million years ago. Walking upright gave us advantages. We could see over tall grass, we could carry things, we could use tools better. The cubs had crept closer during her explanation, forming a semicircle around her. They seemed to understand that something important was being discussed, even if they couldn't follow the words. But walking upright also made us slower, Yuna continued. We couldn't run as fast as four-legged animals. We couldn't climb as well as our tree-dwelling cousins. We were vulnerable. So we developed other strategies. Persistence hunting, Hana said. Yes, and tool use. And something else that's important. We learned to throw. Throw? Tay's ears perked forward. Yuna picked up a small stone from the ground. She stood up, wound her arm back, and threw the stone across the habitat. It sailed through the air and struck a distant tree with a sharp crack. The distance was impressive, at least 40 meters. Every vrath in the habitat flinched at the sound. The cubs scattered, then regrouped, staring at the tree where the stone had hit. Humans have incredibly sophisticated throwing mechanics, Yuna explained. Our shoulders can rotate in ways that give us tremendous power and accuracy. We can throw objects at high speeds over long distances. Our ancestors used this to hunt. They would throw rocks or spears at prey from a distance, staying safe while inflicting harm. Tay stood up and walked to where the stone had landed. He examined the small dent it had made in the artificial tree bark. This is weapon capability, long range, high accuracy. It's how early humans survived, Yuna said. We weren't the biggest or the strongest, but we could keep moving when other animals had to rest. We could throw weapons from safety. We could work in groups and coordinate our actions. We were persistent predators with ranged weapons and teamwork. Predators, Devon said softly. You were predators. Yes, though we were also prey for a long time. Big cats, bears, wolves, they all hunted humans. We had to be clever to survive. Hana made a sound of understanding. You evolved from prey animals. That is why you seem fragile. Your ancestors needed to be light, to be fast over distance. Heavy armor would slow you down. Exactly, Yuna said. We sacrificed immediate physical power for endurance and versatility. Tay returned to the group, his expression thoughtful. The Vrath evolved as ambush predators. We are built for short, explosive attacks. We can sprint incredibly fast, but only for brief periods. Then we must rest. Our prey either escapes in the first few seconds, or it does not escape at all. Different strategies for different environments, Yuna agreed. But this means, Tay continued, that humans have capabilities we lack entirely. You can maintain activity for hours. You can jump to reach high places. You can throw with deadly accuracy. These are not minor differences. These are fundamental adaptations that shaped your entire civilization. Yuna hadn't thought about it that way. She had always taken her body's capabilities for granted, but seeing the Vrath's reaction, understanding how different their evolution had been, made her appreciate the unique path humanity had taken. Your spaceships, Devon said suddenly. They are built for long-duration missions, yes? With crew that stays active for extended shifts? Standard shift is 8 to 12 hours, Yuna confirmed. A Vrath crew requires rest periods every 3 to 4 hours, Devon said. We assumed this was normal. We assumed all species needed frequent rest. That's why the galactic trade routes have so many rest stations, Hana added, understanding dawning in her voice. They are built for species like us, who cannot maintain activity indefinitely. But humans can use those long routes without stopping, Tay said. You can maintain operations continuously, rotating crew members who all have the same endurance capacity. It gives you an economic advantage we never considered, Devon finished. Yuna felt a strange mix of pride and discomfort. She hadn't come here to demonstrate human superiority. She had come to learn about the Vrath, to understand their development and behavior. But somehow, in the simple act of placing her research sensors, she had revealed something profound about the differences between their species. One of the cubs approached her cautiously. It sat down and looked up at her face, chirping softly. Then it crouched and jumped, achieving perhaps 3 feet of height before landing again. It looked at her expectantly. Yuna smiled and crouched down, then jumped, easily clearing 4 feet. The cub chirped in what sounded like delight. The cubs understand, Hana said quietly. They see that you can do things they cannot, but they do not fear you for it. They admire you. Admiration, Tay said. Yes. That is the appropriate response. Humans are not superior to Vrath, merely different. But the differences are remarkable and worthy of respect. Yuna looked around at the gathered Vrath, at the cubs watching her with bright eyes, at the adults regarding her with new understanding. She had come to observe them, but they had ended up observing her instead. The next morning, Yuna arrived at the nursery habitat to find it transformed. Additional observation platforms had been installed overnight, all at heights that the Vrath could not easily reach. Tay stood near the entrance, examining a data pad with intense focus. "Good morning," Yuna said, approaching him. "What's all this?" Tay looked up from his pad. "I could not sleep after our conversation yesterday. I spent the night reviewing everything we know about predator evolution across the galaxy. I made a discovery that I must share with you." He gestured for her to follow him to a conference area adjacent to the habitat. Inside, several other Vrath waited, including Devon and Hana. They had set up display screens showing images and data from various worlds. "Please sit," Tay said, indicating a chair that had been adjusted to human proportions. Someone had been thoughtful enough to provide furniture she could actually use comfortably. Yuna sat down, curious about what had prompted this gathering. The Vrath arranged themselves around the room, their attention focused on Tai. "Yesterday, Dr. Yuna demonstrated physical capabilities that surprised us," Tay began. "This led me to investigate further. What I found is significant for understanding not just humans, but the nature of intelligence itself." He activated one of the displays. It showed a chart mapping various species across two axes: predator-prey evolution and technological development. "In the known galaxy, we have identified 47 spacefaring species," Tay continued. "Of these, 43 evolved as predators. The Vrath, the Kellen, the Morthax, and so on. We are all hunters who developed intelligence as a tool for more efficient killing." He highlighted several points on the chart. 3 species evolved as herbivores who developed intelligence for complex social structures and environmental manipulation. They are peaceful traders who avoid conflict. "And the 47th species?" Yuna asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "Humans," Tay said. "The only species we have encountered that evolved as prey animals, developed into persistent predators, and achieved technological civilization. You are unique." One of the other Vrath, an older female Yuna hadn't met, spoke up. "This explains much about human behavior that confused us. Your species is cautious, always planning escape routes, uncomfortable with being watched. These are prey animal instincts. But you are also aggressive when cornered," another Vrath added. "And you form extremely strong social bonds, protecting group members even at personal cost. Pack predator behavior." "You are both," Tay said, his voice carrying a note of wonder. "You carry the instincts of prey and predator simultaneously. This creates a psychology unlike anything else we have encountered." Yuna thought about this. She had never considered human behavior from this perspective, but it made sense. Humans were always aware of their surroundings, always noting exits, always uncomfortable when something large moved behind them. Prey instincts. But humans also protected their families fiercely, formed hunting parties for complex goals, and could be ruthlessly efficient when threatened. Predator instincts. "This dual nature manifests in your physical form as well," Tay continued, pulling up anatomical diagrams. "Look at human eyes, forward-facing, like a predator, for depth perception and tracking, but positioned high on your head, giving you a wide field of view, like prey watching for threats." He switched to a different image. "Your teeth, flat molars for grinding plant matter, like herbivores, sharp incisors and canines for tearing meat, like carnivores. You are adapted to eat anything, to survive in any environment. Your legs, Hana added. Long, efficient for distance running, but also springy, capable of sudden acceleration to escape danger. Predator and prey features combined. Devon leaned forward. This is why your species adapted so quickly to space travel. You are built to survive in changing circumstances. When your environment became less hospitable, you did not specialize further. You became more versatile. Yuna felt a strange emotion rising in her chest. Pride, yes, but also a kind of understanding she had never had before. Humans always seemed to be the weak ones among the galactic species. No natural weapons, no armor, smaller and frailer than most other intelligent beings. But they had survived by being adaptable, by combining the best survival strategies from both predators and prey. "May I show you something?" Yuna asked. Tay gestured his agreement. Yuna stood and walked to the center of the room. "You mentioned that humans are uncomfortable being watched. That's true. But watch what happens when a human feels safe." She sat down on the floor, crossing her legs in a relaxed posture. "In this position, I am vulnerable. I cannot run or fight effectively. My vital organs are exposed. No predator species would rest like this in the open." The Vrath exchanged glances. It was true. When they rested, they always positioned themselves against walls, with their backs protected and their limbs ready for quick movement. "But humans do this all the time," Yuna continued. "We sit in parks, on benches, in open spaces. We show our vulnerability because we trust our intelligence and our social bonds to protect us. We don't need to be physically ready for threats at every moment because we have other defenses." She stood up and, in a fluid motion, jumped straight up, touching a point on the ceiling that the Vrath could not reach. "But when we need to act, we can. Our bodies may look soft, but they are capable of sudden, explosive movement. We can switch from rest to action in seconds." "Prey instinct meets predator capability," Tay said softly. "There's more," Yuna said. She walked over to one of the windows overlooking the landscape outside. "Humans sweat. We are the only species we've found that uses sweat as a primary cooling mechanism. Do you know what that means?" "You can regulate temperature efficiently," Hana said. "We can hunt in the heat of the day when other predators are resting," Yuna explained. "Our prey would collapse from heat exhaustion while we kept moving. It's not glamorous, but it's effective. We didn't outrun our prey. We outlasted them." She turned back to face the group. "And we can carry water, carry food, carry our wounded. Our hands are free because we walk upright. We can support each other over long distances. A human alone is vulnerable. A group of humans is nearly unstoppable." One of the younger Vrath, a male with dark stripes, spoke up hesitantly. "This makes humans sound formidable, but you seem so gentle. You play with the cubs. You speak softly. You do not display aggression." Yuna smiled. "That's the prey instinct. We don't want conflict because our ancestors who avoided unnecessary fights survived to pass on their genes. But watch." She picked up a stylus from the conference table. In one smooth motion, she threw it across the room. It hit a specific point on the far wall, exactly where she had aimed. The speed and accuracy of the throw made several Vrath flinch. "When we need to fight, we can fight from a distance," Yuna said. "We throw rocks, spears, arrows. Now we use guns and missiles. We strike from safety, like prey animals defending themselves, but with predator accuracy and lethality." Tay was recording everything, his datapad capturing every word. "Your species carried this strategy into space. Your warships fight at range. You use drones and autonomous weapons. You minimize risk to your own people while maximizing threat to enemies." "It's how we survived on Earth," Yuna said, "and it's how we'll survive in the galaxy." The room fell silent as the Vrath processed this information. Yuna could see them recalculating their understanding of humanity, fitting these new pieces into a revised picture of what humans were capable of. Finally, the older female spoke again. We thought humans were weak because you lacked our physical power. We see now that we were measuring with the wrong scale. You are not weak. You are efficient. Efficiency over power, Devon agreed. Endurance over speed. Strategy over strength. This is how prey survives to become predators, Tay said. Not by matching the hunter's strengths, but by developing entirely different advantages. Hana stood up and moved to the window, looking out at the landscape. On our world, the apex predators rule by strength. We Vrath are the strongest, so we dominate. But on Earth, with so many competing predator species, strength alone was not enough. You needed something else. We needed to be smarter, Yuna said, and more stubborn. Our ancestors refused to die. They found ways to survive in environments that should have killed them. They crossed deserts, climbed mountains, sailed oceans. They spread across the entire planet because they could adapt to anything. And now you spread across the galaxy, Tay observed, using the same strategy. Where other species see harsh worlds, you see challenges to overcome. Where we see limitations, you see opportunities. Yuna walked back to her chair and sat down. I didn't come here to make humans sound superior. Every species has advantages. The Vrath are stronger, faster in short bursts, have better senses. But you're right that humans have our own strengths. We just express them differently. Different, Tay repeated. Yes, but also remarkable. I have studied xenobiology for 30 years. I have examined hundreds of species. But I have never encountered one with your particular combination of traits. You are prey that learn to hunt. Predators that remember how to hide. Aggressive enough to dominate, but cautious enough to survive. One of the cubs had wandered into the conference room, curious about the gathering. It approached Yuna and sat at her feet, looking up at her with bright eyes. She reached down and gently scratched behind its ears, the way she might pet a cat back on Earth. The cub closed its eyes and made a purring sound, completely relaxed under her touch. A predator, soothed by prey. The irony was not lost on anyone in the room. 3 weeks had passed since Yuna's arrival on Vrathis Prime. The nursery habitat had become her second home, and the cubs now greeted her with enthusiastic chirps whenever she entered. They had learned that the strange human could do things they could not, and rather than fear her for it, they had adopted her as an honorary member of their pack. Yuna sat on her observation bench, reviewing the data her sensors had collected. The information was fascinating. Vrath cubs learned through mimicry and play fighting, developing their hunting instincts through controlled practice. But something new had emerged in recent days. The cubs had started incorporating human movements into their play. She watched as one cub attempted to throw a ball to another, mimicking the motion it had seen Yuna use. The throw was clumsy. The cub's shoulder not designed for that kind of rotation, but the intent was clear. They were learning from her, just as she was learning from them. They admire you, Hana said, settling down beside the bench. Over the weeks, the caretaker had become comfortable around Yuna, often joining her for observation sessions. They see you do impossible things, and they want to understand. I'm not doing anything impossible, Yuna protested. Just normal human activities. Normal for you, Hana replied. For them, you are magic. You touch the sky. You move without tiring. You strike from distances they cannot imagine. In their young minds, you are the greatest hunter they have ever seen. Yuna felt uncomfortable with that description. I'm a scientist, not a hunter. But that is what makes it even more impressive, Hana said. You have all these capabilities, and you choose to use them for learning instead of killing. That shows wisdom the cubs can sense, even if they cannot articulate it. Davin entered the habitat, accompanied by Tay and several other Vrath that Yuna had come to know over the weeks. They had requested this meeting, though they had not explained its purpose. "Dr. Yuna," Tay began formally, "we have completed our analysis of human capabilities based on your demonstrations and the additional research we conducted. We would like to share our findings." "Of course," Yuna said, curious about what they had discovered. Tay activated a portable display showing a comparative chart. "We tested Vrath volunteers on various physical activities and compared their performance to standard human metrics. The results are enlightening." He pulled up the first set of data. "In sprinting, the Vrath excel. We can reach speeds of 90 kilometers per hour for short bursts. Humans average about 45 kilometers per hour. We are twice as fast in short distances. But in endurance running," he continued, "the results reverse dramatically. The longest distance a Vrath has ever run continuously is 15 kilometers. We have records of humans running over 200 kilometers without stopping. You have more than 10 times our endurance." Another chart appeared. In vertical jumping, the best Vrath jumper achieved 1.3 meters. The human average is 0.6 meters, but your best athletes achieve over 2 meters. When we account for body weight ratios, human jumping ability is extraordinary. In throwing, Tay went on, there is no comparison. The Vrath physiology cannot throw with any significant force or accuracy. We tested our strongest warriors. They could barely throw a stone 20 meters. You casually threw one over 40 meters with precision. Devon stepped forward. "These findings led us to investigate human achievements in space. What we discovered changed our understanding of galactic civilization." He pulled up records of human space missions. The standard galactic trade route from Earth to the Centauri cluster takes 6 weeks. Most species assign 3 separate crews, rotating every 2 weeks to prevent exhaustion. The shipping manifests show that human vessels complete this journey with a single crew, working in rotating shifts. The mining station on Kepler 442b was considered unworkable, another Vrath added. The extended shifts required to maintain operations exceeded what most species could handle. Humans took over the station and made it profitable within 1 standard year. The colony on Nova Terra faced a crisis when a solar flare damaged their power systems, Devon continued. Repairs required continuous work for 36 hours in hostile environment suits. The Morthax engineers said it was impossible. Humans completed the repairs in 32 hours. Tay switched off the display. In every instance where endurance, adaptability, or sustained effort was required, humans exceeded expectations. You are not the strongest species, you are not the fastest, but you are relentless. Once humans commit to a task, you do not stop until it is completed. "We call it stubbornness," Yuna said with a slight smile, "or determination depending on the context." "We have a different word for it," Tay said. "We call it the quality of persistence. It is the defining characteristic of your species. You simply refuse to give up." Hana made a gesture of agreement. "The prey that refused to die, that is what humans are. Every predator on your world tried to eliminate your ancestors, and every time, humans found a way to survive. You survived ice ages and droughts. You survived diseases and disasters. You crossed impossible distances and adapted to impossible environments. And when survival was not enough, you became predators yourselves. This persistence extends beyond physical capability," Tay added. "We examined human cultural records. Your species faces extinction-level problems, solves them, and then immediately looks for the next challenge. You eliminated diseases that killed millions. You developed technology to leave your planet. You faced the loneliness of space and responded by reaching further into the stars." One of the cubs approached and sat at Yuna's feet, listening to the adults talk with the patience only children who do not understand can muster. Yuna reached down and stroked its head absently. "Why are you telling me all this?" Yuna asked. The Vrath exchanged glances, And then Davin spoke. Because we want to propose a partnership. The Vrath Confederation has existed for 3,000 years. We have built a civilization based on strength and hierarchy, but we recognize our limitations now. Our species cannot endure the way yours can. We cannot adapt the way you do. We cannot persist in the face of obstacles that would stop us. But together, Tay said, our species could accomplish remarkable things. Vrath strength and speed combined with human endurance and adaptability. Vrath sensory capabilities paired with human strategic thinking. We could explore regions of space that are currently unreachable. We could solve problems that neither species could handle alone. You want an alliance? Yuna said. We want friendship, Hana corrected gently. Alliances are political arrangements. They end when convenience dictates. Friendship is deeper. It is built on mutual respect and understanding. We respect what humans have achieved. We respect what you are. And we hope you can respect us as well. Yuna looked around at the gathered Vrath. 3 weeks ago, these beings had seemed alien and intimidating. Now she saw them as colleagues, as friends. They had learned from her, but she had learned from them as well. She had seen how they raised their young with patience and care. She had watched them work together with efficiency that came from thousands of years of cultural development. She had observed their art, their music, their poetry. I respect the Vrath deeply, Yuna said. You are incredible beings. Your society is ancient and sophisticated. Your achievements in art and science are remarkable, and the way you care for your cubs shows a compassion that any species would be proud of. She stood up, and the cub at her feet chirped in protest before settling down again. I'm just one person. I can't speak for all of humanity, but I can carry your message back. I can tell my people about the Vrath, about your kindness and your interest in partnership, and I think they will be eager to respond. That is all we ask, Tay said. The beginning of dialogue, the first step toward understanding. There is one more thing, Devin said. We have been discussing this among ourselves. The cubs have become attached to you. They have learned from watching you. We would like to propose an exchange program. Vrath cubs could visit human worlds, and human children could visit ours. They would learn each other's strengths, each other's perspectives. Teaching the young, Hana added. That is how true cultural exchange begins. Not with treaties between governments, but with friendships between children who have not yet learned to fear differences. Yuna thought about human children playing with Vrath cubs, learning to see the universe through predator eyes. And Vrath cubs learning from human children how to persist, how to adapt, how to approach problems with the stubborn determination that had carried humanity to the stars. I think that's a beautiful idea, she said. The gathered Vrath made sounds of satisfaction. One by one, they approached Yuna and touched her gently with their paws. A gesture she had learned was their equivalent of a handshake or a hug. When Hana touched her, the contact was warm and firm, conveying trust and affection. As the meeting broke up and the Vrath dispersed, Yuna returned to her observation bench. The cubs had resumed their play, but now she noticed they had incorporated new elements. One would jump, reaching as high as it could, while another attempted to throw a ball to a third. They were clumsy at these human activities, their bodies not built for such movements, but they tried with the pure determination of youth, refusing to let their limitations stop them. They learned that from you, Hana said, remaining behind after the others had left. That refusal to accept limitations, that stubbornness. In 3 weeks, you have changed how these cubs see the world. They know now that impossible is just a word, not a fact. I just showed them what humans can do, Yuna said. You showed them what persistence looks like, Hana corrected. You showed them that small size does not mean weakness. That different capabilities do not mean inferior capabilities. You showed them that the universe is bigger and more diverse than they imagined. That is the greatest gift one species can give to another. Yuna watched the cubs play, watched them attempt human movements with their Vrath bodies, watched them learn and adapt and grow. She thought about human children who would one day play alongside Vrath cubs, each learning from the other, each growing stronger from the partnership. "The prey that refused to die," she said softly. "I never thought of humans that way before. But it's accurate, isn't it? We survived because we were too stubborn to give up, too adaptable to be trapped, too persistent to be stopped." "And now you reach for the stars," Hana said, "just as you reached for the ceiling." The cubs jumped to try grabbing it because they saw it was possible. They saw you do it. Now the Vrath see humans reaching into the galaxy, and we want to jump with you. We want to reach for things we thought were beyond our grasp. "Then jump," Yuna said, smiling. "We'll reach together." A cub chirped and bounded over, jumping up to try to reach Yuna's hand. It failed, falling short by a good foot, but it tried again immediately, undeterred by failure, and again, until finally, Yuna lowered her hand just enough that the cub's paw made contact. The cub chirped in triumph, and Yuna laughed. "See," Hana said, "you teach them persistence just by being yourself. That is the human gift to the galaxy, not your technology, not your strength, but your absolute refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible." Yuna looked up at the sensor she had placed on the ceiling 3 weeks ago, the sensor that had started all of this. She had just been doing her job, mounting equipment for her research. She had not realized she was demonstrating something profound. She had not known that such a simple action would change how an entire species viewed humanity. But that was the nature of first contact, she supposed. You never knew which actions would resonate, which moments would matter. You just had to be yourself and hope that your differences would bridge understanding rather than create division. The cubs played around her feet, jumping and reaching and throwing with determined enthusiasm, and Yuna sat among them, a human among predators, no longer prey, no longer purely predator, but something unique and valuable. A friend, a teacher, a bridge between worlds. The prey that refused to die had reached the stars, and the galaxy was richer for it.